If you have read any of the secret projects, or if you've read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, talk to me in the comments. I would love to chat with you. This is a spoiler video, so please feel free to just go to town. Talk to me about anything that you want, because you're not going to spoil anything for me, and I would assume that other people who have not read this book are not going to be watching this video. They'll watch my spoiler-free version of this, so go ahead. Free reign. Talk to me about this book or any of the secret projects. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson, one of the 4 secret projects that came out in the year 2023. I finally got around to reading this one, and it was so good. I really enjoyed this book. Oh man, if I had to pick a favorite of the secret projects, which of course we have The Sunlit Man, we also have Tress of the Emerald Sea, and then the Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Defeating Medieval England. Okay, I don't know what that title is because it's long, but that was definitely tied for my top favorite. I think when I consider all of the books, because I've read all of them at this point, it's got to be between Yumi and the Frugal Wizard. I really enjoyed both of those. I really also liked Tress of the Emerald Sea very much. They were all 5-star books for me, except for The Sunlit Man. I have a separate video on that one if you're curious about my review for The Sunlit Man. I think I landed on a 3.75 star, if I'm not mistaken. I read it sometime last year. I enjoyed it. It just simply was not my favorite Sanderson book. Sanderson rarely disappoints. I'm a huge fan. I love Brandon Sanderson. I love the Cosmere, and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter certainly did not disappoint. I was extremely eager to get into this one because I've heard that fans say that this is their absolute favorite Brandon Sanderson book of all time. And you know why I think that is? This is the most romance heavy of his books, which it's not romance heavy, but for Brandon Sanderson, yeah, this is pretty romance heavy. No spice, but definitely a strong element of romance. Since I just finished reading this book, I would love to chat about this book with spoilers. So let's do a quick synopsis. Although if you're watching this video, I'm willing to bet you have read and hopefully loved this book. But we have Yumi, who comes from a world of heat and spirits and gardens and meditation, which is vastly different from the world that Painter comes from. A land of darkness, perpetual darkness, a land of technology, just total opposites. Well, their lives become intertwined somehow, and they have to work through some things in order to save their respective worlds from ruin. So, it was so good. I love the way that Brandon Sanderson writes. First of all, both Yumi and Painter, very likable characters, extremely likable characters. Let's start with Painter. He is flawed. He's considered a liar by pretty much everyone in the book. But when you come to understand his motivations for lying, it totally makes sense. And I empathized with this guy. He didn't want to let his friends down. Okay, just to refresh your memory in case you read this some time ago. So Painter, also known as Nikaro, 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 I think. Nikaro. Well, he used to be friends with Tojin and Izzy and Masaka and Arcane, but he ended up telling them that he got accepted into the Dream Watch when that was actually not true. He didn't want to tell them the truth because he didn't want to let them down. He felt confident that he was going to get into the Dream Watch because he's a very talented artist. And when it didn't happen, he was so crushed, and he didn't want his friends to feel that same level of devastation. So he hid it for an entire year. Wow, that's a long time to try to sustain a lie. And it really hurt him when his friends finally found out. But isn't it cool that in the end, he discovers that Dream Watch, it's not about talent, it's not about skill, it's about who you know, which is crazy because how many places are like that in real life, like today in the modern world? Yeah, a lot. Depends on who you know. Not always. Hopefully, some organizations appreciate and recognize talent and skill, but sometimes it boils down to who you know. So Painter realizes he never had a shot at the Dream Watch. And that made me feel a little bit better. I hope it made him feel a little bit better as well. He never had a shot. Should he have told his friends the truth? Absolutely. Yes, that would have saved him a lot of pain. I really loved how we are introduced to Painter without knowing his history. We know that he's a loner, but not by choice. He wanders around and he works alone, he eats alone, and he longs for the friends that he used to have. And so I finally love that reveal in the end where we discover why his friends discarded him, because they saw him as a liar. Okay, yeah, he was a liar, but I understood the reason for his lies. Not that that makes it okay, but I understand. Yumi, on the other hand, our girl is so naive. She's so sweet, even though she is a being that has been alive for 1700 years. She's been kept in the dark, and I don't mean in the literal darkness. She comes from a world of light and heat, but she's been lied to her entire life by Liyun, Liyun, Liyun. I hope I'm not butchering these names. That'd be horrible if I did. Her warden is the one who's been lying to her all this time. Not only is she one of the very few old school Yoki Hijo who, Yoki Hiju. Hiju? Oh my gosh. I just realized I don't know how to pronounce any of these things. So if I have butchered anything and everything, I'm so sorry. That is entirely my fault. It's because I don't listen to audiobooks. I read everything just the old fashioned way. So by default, I mess up a lot of names. But a Yoki Hiju. Hiju. She is one of 14, and I think one of only 2 who are old school. Very, very strict, not allowed time with their family, not allowed possessions, not allowed really any pleasures. All the other Yoki Hiju, they are allowed to see their families and they own things. They have possessions. Anyways, so she was lied to about that. Also, the fact that these 2 are actually on the same planet, that was kind of a cool twist because Painter assumes from the very beginning that the star... Oh, that freaked me out. Painter assumes that Yumi is from the star that he sees in the sky. That's totally not true. And yeah, I thought that was a cool reveal. They're like no more than 5 miles from each other. They're pretty much neighbors. But anyways, the shroud kind of covered up parts of their world. And so they were not able to ever cross paths until the shroud disappeared in the end. What a cool world too, right? I thought that was so neat because I almost became convinced myself that Yumi's from a different planet. She has to be. These worlds are just too different. There's no way they could possibly be from the same planet. Anyways, they are. So that was pretty cool. Let's talk about the romance. So I love the romance. It's not overly done, but we do have some classic romance tropes. We have enemies to lovers. We also have forced proximity because if you remember, Yumi and Painter are kind of bonded in a way, and there's only so far they can go from each other. Design is able to manipulate their spirit webs a little bit, I think, and able to lengthen the cord that ties them together, but they can't go very far from each other. And I thought it was really sweet that Yumi felt kind of reluctant that Design was allowing more space between them because she's been alone her entire life, and she thought it was kind of nice to have somebody who literally could not leave her side. Anyways, we got through it. It's okay. It only worked on one of their worlds. I think it was Painter's world. In her world, they were still tethered very, very closely together. And even though she spent the first part of the book being very mad at him, he wasn't the hero that she thought he was, and he didn't correct her for a while. She herself considers him a liar for a lot of the book, but she forgives him because she comes to understand him like I did. I like Painter. I think he is a hero in disguise. Well, he's one of those heroes that you have to watch his actions in order to appreciate him. There's a part in the very beginning where he sees a nightmare feeding off a little boy, and he's off his shift, and he's like, well, I should just let somebody else who's actually on shift take care of it. And even though he has those thoughts, I should just go home, he doesn't. He goes and takes care of it. What a good guy, right? This being a Cosmere novel, I love all of the Stormlight references. Design in particular, she uses the word storming, which I thought was pretty funny. She also refers to Chol, so if you've read all the Stormlight Archive books, you know what those beasts are. Anyways, those are the 2 that come to mind, but I know there were several references to other Cosmere novels, and that just made it so fun. But if you haven't read any of the other Cosmere novels, it's okay. You can still absolutely read this. That is not required for you to have an understanding of Stormlight Archive or any of these books. This is totally independent, can be read and enjoyed on its own entirely. I actually really liked Tojin as well. Arcane was a little rough around the edges for me. I'm referring to all the friends. Arcane was a little rough, but the way that she treats Yumi, she's so accepting, asks her to go shopping, and Yumi is just overcome with appreciation and joy. I thought that was a pretty cool scene. And then Yumi, our sweet girl, finally has an opportunity to possess something, and it feels wonderful. And she knows that's dangerous. She's starting to crave the freedom and the possessions. And Yumi lives such a sad life for 1700 years. Wow, what a lonely life. I felt so bad for her. She had no freedom, no choices, and it was just heartbreaking for a lot of the beginning of this book. Anyways, Tojin, he's very into working out and he likes to show off his physique. At first, I kind of took that to be a narcissistic personality trait, but he's just very passionate, and you can tell because he's kind of embarrassed by the way people react to that, but he goes to some other bodybuilding friends and he's talking about techniques with them, and you can just see that he's overjoyed and passionate about working out. So it's not because of the attention he gets from building up his musculature, it's because he truly enjoys it. And I thought that was so wholesome. And he is the first to support Painter when he says, hey, 100 nightmares are going to appear and attack the city. We need to do something. He is the first one to say, hey, I thought I saw you there that night that the stable nightmare appeared. And Nikera was actually invisible to everybody. So I don't know how Tojin perceived him, but he did. And he's like, I thought I saw you there. So I'm with you. And then, of course, all the other friends pooled their resources and pulled in other painters, and they were able to eventually defeat all of the nightmares that came through the shroud, which was a pretty cool scene. Although Painter did 95% of the work, having to draw all these nightmares into people, because that's their true form. That is the form that they wanted to be. So he did most of the grunt work, but the team was there to help. We'll give him some credit for that. With the warden Layun being the nightmare, I did not see that coming. I thought that was a pretty cool twist, and it made sense. And she's, I don't know if the word confused is the right word, but she's left to wander Painter's world, and she's forgetting her memories, and she's lost, and she's searching for herself. So it kind of brings perspective to her character. Still didn't like her. Still definitely didn't like her. She was too hard on Yumi. She was a jerk. But anyways, I guess I understood her in her own unique way as well. Hoyd even said it himself. Layun spent 1,700 years, and after that amount of time, she wasn't quite feeling herself. Also, Hoyd. Hoyd, our wonderful narrator of all of the Secret Project books. He's so funny. I will say, I think he is the funniest probably in Tress of the Emerald Sea, but he had his moments in here too. The fact that he spends the entire book as a coat rack in the noodle pupil was so funny to me. I'm like, that would happen to Hoyd, wouldn't it? One of my favorite scenes of this book is when Painter, I knew that mural where that blank canvas, it's a blank wall in the city, it's reserved for him. I'm like, that's going to come back in the end. He's going to use that for something special. And lo and behold, he did. He drew Yumi sitting in the tree when they were fleeing from the scholar's tent, and they jumped on the tree and it's hovering in the air. And he drew her that way. And I thought that was so sweet. And that's how he was able to get her to come back, essentially, because no shroud, no Yumi, but as she was being kind of sucked into that vortex, he recreates her in a painting and he pulls her out. And that's how we get our happy ending, which was so nice, because I honestly thought Brandon was going to do us wrong here. I thought he was going to actually kill off Yumi, and I was not going to be happy about it. So I'm very, very happy that he gave us that twisty little ending that allowed us to have our satisfactory happy ending. Oh, the artwork in this book is stunning. I gotta say, the artwork in all of these books are fantastic, but this one in particular, I'm super impressed with. The artwork was done by Aaliyah Chen. Anyways, oh my gosh. First of all, stunning book. I participated in the Kickstarter all the way back in 2023, which is why I have gorgeous copies. But these pictures, well, this one's pretty plain and simple, but I like it. I'll just show you a couple here. This is lovely. Lovely, lovely. That's when they are it's when they're performing the bathing ritual, which was so crazy and silly. But yeah, holding her breath underwater for like 144 minutes. No, minutes. Oh my gosh. 144 seconds. Or until she could count to 144. I don't remember what the deal was, but I think the number was 144. I'm like, how insane is that? Oh, I love this one. I love this one. That's them in their apartment together. Well, that's Painter's apartment, particularly. Ooh, this one is fantastic as well. Beautiful. I'm telling you, I was just blown away by this artwork. Stunning. This one's cool as well. Love the colors. The artwork is just 10 out of 10, in my opinion. And then the very back page here, that is how Painter drew Yumi on the mural. Stunning. Oh, I had a few tabs, not many, honestly, but a few. So let's go through them. Oh, this one was just funny to me. This is on page 37 if you happen to have this gorgeous edition of this book. Painter had heard the accounts. Everyone had. They weren't quite histories, mind you. They were fragments of stories that were likely exaggerations. They were taught in school regardless. Like a man with diarrhea in a sandpaper factory, sometimes all available options are less than ideal. Brandon, my God, seriously, he's so funny sometimes. I had mentioned the references to Stormlight and how Design had used the term storming, and it's right here. It's on page 372, and she says, "Can't you see that I'm talking to a ghost and reading his girlfriend's spirit web? Go sit in the storming corner until I'm ready for you." That was just a nice little callback to Stormlight. Oh, I just really like this passage about art. This is on page 396. Painter is saying, "You said the machine would replace you. It can't. It can summon spirits, he said, but it can't create art. Art is about intent, Yumi. A rainbow isn't art, beautiful though it may be. Art is about creation, human creation. A machine can lift way more than Tojin can. Doesn't make it less impressive when he lifts more than almost any human being. Well said. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This was a 5-star book. I really enjoyed it. I will say it did take me a few chapters to kind of get acclimated to the world, and I wasn't totally invested probably until, I don't know, chapter 7, chapter 8. So it did take me some time, but I'm so glad I stuck it out because it was worth it. I think with any fantasy novel, there are some growing pains because you have to adjust to new characters. You have to adjust to a new world with specific magic system stuff. So anyways, it did take me a little bit to get into it, but once I hit that chapter 7 or 8, I was totally in it. I couldn't wait to see what happened next. Just because it took me a month and a half to read did not mean that I didn't enjoy it. I really did. I was just reading other stuff at the same time and I got distracted, but I always was eager to return to Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. If you haven't done so already, I hope you subscribe to my channel. I have a ton of stuff on Brandon Sanderson, Cosmere stuff. I'm also reading the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So if any of those authors or books interest you, my channel has a ton of them. I do book summaries, I do book reviews with spoilers, and I also do spoiler free. So feel free to peruse my channel. I hope that you subscribe and stick around. I would love to connect with you if you have read any of the secret projects or if you've read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Talk to me in the comments. I would love to chat with you. This is a spoiler video, so please feel free to just go to town. Talk to me about anything that you want because you're not going to spoil anything for me, and I would assume that other people who have not read this book are not going to be watching this video. They'll watch my spoiler-free version of this, so go ahead. Free reign, talk to me about this book or any of the secret projects or any Brandon Sanderson book because I've almost read them all. Anyways, if you're still with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. I hope you're reading something great. I hope it's something Brandon Sanderson. If not, let me know what you're reading. I hope that you're enjoying it because that's what reading is meant for. I hope to catch you in another video, and until next time, I will catch you on the flip side.